Welcome, Drink with James, episode 114. I am filming the second one this week because I am in Italy next week, which I guess was last week. Timing is all very confusing, but I'm happy to be with you. This is the last official piece of Fohr business that I have to do before. Actually, that's not true. I thought I wasn't coming into work tomorrow, and I am. So this is not the last thing I will do. But question number one is, over the last few months, I've been losing followers. Is this something Instagram is doing? Should I be worried? How do I stop it? Okay, great question. First of all, we looked at data on this. Over half the influencers on the platform month over month are losing, not gaining followers. The reason for that generally is that every single time you post, people will unfollow you. That is natural. That's just going to happen. They forgot they followed you. They forgot they didn't like you. They're sick of you. They didn't mean to follow you in the first place. Whatever it might be. They think your trip to Positano is annoying. It used to be before stories that you would post, let's say 50 to 100 times a month. Now with stories, sometimes people are posting 300, 400, 600 times a month. And so that is a lot more opportunities for people to unfollow you. People's feeds are also full and they're trying to clean them out. So one, if you're losing following, you're not alone. This is happening to over half the influencers on the platform currently today. It is more common to be losing followers than gaining them at this point. Something that I think isn't discussed enough is how to keep followers. We talk all the time about how to gain followers, but if you look at a big influencer, they may be gaining 20,000 followers a month and losing 18,000 a month. So if they took that 18,000 a month down to 9,000, well, now they would be gaining 11,000 followers a month instead of 2,000. And I think that we weight our attention so much on how do I get the next follower instead of am I providing value and retaining my old follower. I just had breakfast recently with Grace Atwood and we were having a conversation and she said that this summer she's really just gone back to focusing on her followers, interacting with them, engaging with them, trying to build a community inside of her feed with her followers, and that has been massively helpful to her. One, to just get excited about it again and remember, you worked so hard to get these followers, and then the second you get them, I feel like people just forget about them. They say, the goal is to get the follower, and then I'm totally forgetting about them. But once they follow you, that's where the real work starts. Then you have to provide value. Then you have to make sure that you're entertain people, educate them, or enrich their lives in some way. If you're not doing that, why would they follow you? If they don't find you entertaining, if they don't find what you're talking about educational and they're learning things from you, if their lives aren't better by following you, they will unfollow you. And so if you're losing followers, think about how to keep those other followers, engage with them. Reply to comments back, reply to DMs, put the work in to make sure that those followers are feeling taken care of. Shoot more creative projects. I just saw this week Sai from Scout in the City and Brooklyn Blonde and Crystal Bick were out shooting a personal project with Carolina Herrera in the streets and on the subway. I saw the week before that they went to a Yankees game in gowns. They're just doing this stuff for fun. They're just shooting creative, fun projects. Go back to that, I think we talked about this last week, but I'll say it again, if your feed has gotten to be 50% sponsored, think about if you were watching an 8-episode series on Netflix and 4 of them were advertisements. That would be infuriating. So go back and fall back in love with doing this. Fall back in love with fashion or beauty or whatever it was that you talked about. Take a step back from sponsored posts. Take a step back from hustling to try and figure out how can I make more money? How can I gain more followers? Why is this influencer gaining followers and I'm not? I think they're buying followers. This is so unfair. I hate everything. Everything's terrible. Just step back from all of that and say, I have an audience who has chosen to follow me, and that is rare. Most people just have like their friends and family and a bunch of bots following them. So I have an audience that is interested in what I have to say. Let's put some thought into what I'm saying, and let's make sure that those people feel like they're glad that they follow you. When they see that post, they're excited and they're gonna read it and they're gonna stop. They're not just gonna blow on by because they assume it's another ad. And I know this is semi-hypocritical to say as someone who runs a company that makes its money off doing sponsored content, but these are things we look at. You know, we look at what percentage of your feed is sponsored. We look at how much you're engaging with that audience. We look at to try and understand if you have influence over that audience or you're just speaking to them and trying to make money off of them. You want to be not like a parasite to your audience, just taking things from them, but you want to be giving things back to them. Ask yourself the hard question if you're doing enough to keep your audience happy and keep them there. And if you're losing followers, yes, you can try and work harder. If month over month you're losing followers, yes, you can try and work harder to gain more to make sure the delta is positive and not negative. But similarly, you could just say, I'm going to focus on not losing as many and do that. So don't despair, but get to work. Question number 2, do brands realize or value elevated editorial imagery in the current space that we are in? First of all, I will say, if you have not seen Margot and me's video, I would watch that. We talked a lot about that. If you have not seen Jamie Beck's Drink with James, I would go back and watch those. Those we touch on this a decent amount, and those women are more eloquent than I could be on the subject, and so I encourage you, if you haven't seen those episodes, to go back and see them. I 100% think brands value editorial content. I think also if that's something that you want to do, you have to, you sometimes have to convince them why they should do this. I think that editorial content can come at the price of engagement sometimes. That an editorial, a piece of beautiful editorial won't get as good of engagement as something that is more off the cuff and iPhone and feels more natural. It doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. It just means not as many people are gonna like it. And so I think you have to figure out what this piece of content is supposed to do. Is it supposed to elevate a brand and make a brand seem really special? Can you make a brand feel really special with an iPhone photo? Can you create a story with an iPhone photo? Can you create mystery and intrigue and all of that with an iPhone photo? Probably not. Can you sell a shitload of moisturizer with an iPhone photo? Yeah, you probably can do that. Can you tell an authentic, real story with an iPhone photo or video? Absolutely. And so you just have to think about what is the brand and what makes sense for you to be, what is the medium best suited for that brand and for the message that they're trying to get across, and do that. And it's okay if you're super elevated, if you're Margot and me and everything you shoot is elevated, it's okay to say no to a brand that doesn't want that. It's okay to say that I don't do that and I don't think that my feed is right for your product. Trust me, brands appreciate that. You're not going to piss anyone off by respectfully declining a deal because it doesn't fit within your aesthetic and what you do. Do brands want more editorial or less editorial? Brands want what does well, and brands ideally want you and they want your point of view, and so we talk about Teza a lot in the show. She's doing really well right now. She's working with a shitload of brands. And her kind of vibe and energy is you can see it spreading throughout a lot of other influencers. Everything she does is incredibly editorial. Brands like to work with her because of that. Now, are they working with Michelle from Michelle Takes Aim less because they're working with Teza? Probably not. You could have a campaign where both of them get to create something and it makes sense for both of them. So I think brands should want you and your point of view, and that just goes back to the fundamental thing that we talk about in the space, which is you have to have a point of view. You have to have some form of differentiation. You have to have a thing that you do that makes you you and makes you different, or you're not going to be able to sell what you do to anyone. It doesn't matter. And I will also say that just shooting something with a DSLR does not make it editorial. You know, even if it's a $7,000 camera setup, that is not editorial. That is just a nice camera. And if you're just shooting normal photos with a nice camera, I'm not sure the value is really there. Editorial is scouting locations, pulling looks, creating a storyboard, shooting something that tells that story. That is editorial. Editorial is not a nice camera. So I think that those things get interchanged a lot, where people say, oh, I do more editorial content, and I go to the feed and it's like, no, you shoot with a 5D Mark IV and a 50mm 1.2, you don't do editorial content. So there is difference, and you can shoot editorial content on an iPhone too. You can shoot, you know, editorial on any camera. But shooting on a nice camera does not editorial make. So, yeah. Okay, question number 3. And my last Drink with James question before I go on vacation. What do you do when a brand you've worked with ghosts you? So this happens to us in sales all the time. Part of being in sales is that people will say they want to do things and then they don't. That is not because they don't like you. That is not because they've decided to go work with someone else. That is probably because they spoke too soon and now it's not happening and they feel really awkward. Or it is because the budget got pulled, whatever it might be. Now you hope that you have relationships with brands and partners that allow them to come to you and say, hey, I know I said this is happening. I'm so sorry it's not. And we've had to do that to influencers before. It is a shitty thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. If you're emailing a brand about, let's say they said, okay, great, let's do the deal. You email them, they're not getting back. You're like, hey, when's the product shipping? They're not getting back, I would follow up to a point, and when it feels like, let's say they were gonna ship a product on the 15th and it gets to be the 20th and you haven't heard from them, I would just send something that says, hey, I assume this is no longer happening because I haven't heard from you. Totally understand that things change. And yeah, I'm gonna operate under the assumption that this is no longer happening. I hope to work with you in the future. I think what you don't wanna do is get so upset, because you getting upset is not gonna change anything. Unless you signed a contract and you feel like you wanna extract money out of them because of that binding contract and you have a kill fee, fine. If you wanna do that, do that. It's kind of annoying, but like, whatever. If you haven't created content yet and they've ghosted you, there should be no kill fee, 1. And 2, it's not that big of a deal. It is annoying. What you don't want to do is create a situation where they feel so bad or awkward that they never want to email you again. You know, I think if you can give them an easy out, they will often, the next time, be like, I'm going to make it up to this person. The next deal I get, I'm going to this person because they were super chill about this thing happening and I want to do right by them. That's going to do you so much better than stomping your feet, telling them this is wrong, telling you're going to have a lawyer, and making them feel terrible, or just constantly emailing them to a point where they're like, I feel like this relationship is ruined over this and I can't go to them for something else. I've been there in a situation where I pissed someone off and I felt like the next time something came up, I couldn't work with them because they were so upset that I was like, oh, I'm not even gonna go there. Like, I'm not gonna poke the bear. So be gracious. Now, if you've created the work, if you've shot the product, and you haven't posted it yet and they ghost you, I do think that there is or they ghost you for a bit and then they say, hey, this isn't happening. I think you have a case to have a 20% kill fee or something. So if they're paying you $1,000 for them to give you $200 for creating the content, now it's going to be essentially impossible for you to get that without having that in your contract. So you might consider putting kill fees in your contract. Again, kill fee predicated on you actually creating the content and shooting it and doing all of that. And that assumes a lot of times I've paid a photographer, I've paid a videographer, I've paid for hair and makeup, whatever it might be.
What is a kill fee?
A kill fee is essentially something that you put in a contract where if the party that's, paying you, if the brand pulls out and you've created the content, you get a certain portion of that money, no matter what, even without posting it. Again, it protects you if you have to pay a photographer, if you've, did a 2-day shoot, that you missed other deals. It makes it so that even if you don't post it, you get some money if they back out. It would be very rare for a brand to have someone shoot content and then back out. So I don't think it's massively important, but if you want to be careful, most big influencers probably have kill fees in their contracts. If you've posted and if you've shot and posted and now they're ghosting you on the invoice, bring the full fucking fury of the good Lord Jesus down on them. Like, just do not stop. If they owe you money, be fucking relentless. Because if someone's not paying you, it's probably because they're running out of money or they don't have a lot of money. And as they get money, the person they're paying first is the one that's the most annoying. And so if someone hasn't paid you and they owe you money, don't stop. Just be relentless. If you live in New York City, there's also I don't know if influencers actually fall under this, but there is a freelancer's law now where if a brand doesn't pay you for like 90 days or something, New York City will allow you to sue them and automatically judge in your favor, and you get like 150% of the invoice or something. It's like, look up, I don't know the actual particulars, but it's this new law that New York has passed that protects freelancers from being taken advantage of by big corporations. So you might want to look at that. Know your rights. Know when to threaten legal action. I also found with big brands, if they have an accounting department, I would stop bothering my rep or the person I worked with and start bothering accounting, and call accounting directly. If your rep stopped emailing you, just call information and say, hey, I want to talk to someone I want to talk to the marketing director, I want to talk to the CMO, I want to talk to the person in accounting, I want to talk to the CFO. I once had a major multi-billion dollar organization that I felt like had wronged Fohr Card. I'm legally not allowed to say who, but I emailed their CEO every day for 15 days, and eventually someone got back to me and they figured it out. So if you're persistent, you can usually get things done. Yeah, I think if you've posted the work, if you've done the work and you've posted it and now they're saying they don't pay you, they are in breach of contract, and they are like essentially breaking the law, or at least breaking that contract. They owe you that fucking money. You did the work, they owe you the money. There's no way to get around that. And so if they feel like they don't want to pay you, that's a brand you would never work with again anyway. So that bridge is burned. Now, if something happens before you post, again, it's generally probably not the fault of the person that you work with. Like, these things change, and someone will be like, cool, you got 50 grand, go do this, project, and they'll onboard 100 influencers or something. And then a week later, the CEO will be like, no, actually you don't have that money. Now we need it somewhere else or whatever. So cancel all those contracts. So it's generally not them trying to be terrible. It's just that these things happen in business. So I wouldn't burn a bridge over that, but I would burn a bridge if I did the work and nobody paid me. So that is it. Episode 114 is done. I'm going to Italy, not to Positano, to Puglia. You're watching this, I'm already back. But in my real life, I'm going now. So goodbye.